Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my guide for Zoe and the top 5 tips that every single Zoe player needs to know. My name is Lowell Fit. I have Diamond 4 experience. I do mostly educational content. I do tips like these, and then I do long form guides, and then also opposition reports where I go into the how to approach facing certain kinds of champions. Let's just jump right into it. Number 1 is a little bit of a mix. It's about maximizing damage. It can be really prevalent in the lane phase that can just add a little bit more burst to get those kills. First up, you want to abuse your passive as much as possible, as with each cast you're going to get an auto attack empowerment. Now with your first throwback, you can get a Q, and then after your second one, you can get a second passive. So when you really have control of the lane, this is really good to weave in auto attacks that can be the difference between killing and not killing. Also, along the same lines, I'm just going to keep it into one tip and I'll spread it out over 2, is your W. Whenever you cast one of your summoner's spells, you get those 3 procs. They're going to do extra damage. But one thing I really wanted to stress to you guys is if you do them at the same time, if you're flash igniting, it's not going to give you 6. So try and spread them out a little bit so you're going to get the full effect of the orbs flying out, and that will increase your damage output. And that will wrap up number 1. Alright guys, and let's get right into number 2. Now this is a little bit, it's not a micro type of thing with Zoe, but it is a really important tip that you should be looking at in Champion Select when picking Zoe. Zoe is at her best. She is most effective against very squishy team comps that don't have 2 or 3 big hyper tanks in the front that can just absorb her damage. This means just look, if you have a later pick, you might want to shy away from Zoe when she's into a bunch of tanks, unless you are a very, very skilled Zoe player. She can also thrive in attacking split pushers because of her long distance E over walls and her catch potential. So it's a big plus when you're going up against a split pusher, and it's a big minus when you're going against a big front line that can block a lot of your skill shots. Alright, and number 3, we're going to go over something that's going to make me look like a little bit like a geek, but I'm completely fine with that. I classify myself as such. Let's see here. I want to show you guys something. So when I was watching the LCK, which I do a lot, I watch a lot of pro play, I was like, why are these Zoe players, I think it was BDD, the mid laner for one of the LCK pro teams, and another really good Zoe player, they were doing these really short range, like bursty kind of Qs where they weren't taking advantage of the full advantage of the increased damage of the full range Q. So what I saw them doing is people were taking advantage of minion waves by standing in between the 2 rows, one being the caster row and one being the melee minions. So imagine these are the melee minions and these are the caster minions. What I saw some Zoe players doing was actually just going like this and weaving it inside, so they couldn't just hide behind minions as easily, and it made them think before just AFKing in the middle of the minion wave, thinking that the front ones will block them constantly. So always look to kind of curve them in when it's possible, because people really have a certain type of playstyle against Zoe where it's always trying to stand behind minions, and this can be a great way if you have a lot of mana to just get a little bit of poke. Obviously it's not going to be the same amount of damage as the long range Qs, but it is a great way to get a little bit of lane harass on Zoe. Alright, and let's jump right into number 4. Now this one is going to be a little bit different, something that is just from my personal experience. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it on Zoe. Let's talk about her mobility real quick. It's very deceptive. It seems like she has like a really good dash, like she can just R and sometimes get away from certain skill shots, but she is kind of susceptible when her R is down, and how it always returns her back to the same spot that she ported from. Now, in 5v5 team fights, you should be really aware that you are susceptible to divers and people that are looking to take advantage of you. So what I like to do in team fights is to kind of stay back a little bit, trying to do a little bit of max range until I see some of these enemies using their summoners. Say that one uses a flash and one uses Zonias and one uses whatever it may be, and I use those as lifelines as when I look to go in and really pressure the team and pick those up, and those signify that I can go even more aggressive in the team fight. So I like staying back a little bit for a little bit of time before going in, because it can really make a difference in your survivability to not go in until there's a couple summoner spells dropped, and to really just play in a safe from a safe position until then. Obviously, if the enemy team doesn't have any summoners up, there's no point of doing this, but I have found a lot of success to not go in and really commit hard until there are a few W drops that are going to both increase my movement speed, give me a bit of damage through the W, and a bit of defensive. So you're just waiting. It's almost like it feels like a charge up bar sometimes, where it's like, oh, there's one drop, oh, there's two drops, oh, there's three drops, and then you just get so much stronger with every incremental drop that you can really start looking for more bigger outplays against your opponents. Yeah, so that will wrap up number 4. Alright guys, and let's jump right into the last tip. I know I'm not necessarily using the runes right now, but with this new meta and Rift Scuttlers having such a high priority, there is actually a great setup that you can run right now where you're getting celerity and water walking, and it just gives you so much movement speed and ability power that's just on top of everything else you're doing, that it can really just give you an edge in team fights. Also, celerity is going to work extremely well with your W movement speed that you gain after casting a spell, that this can really be a nice way to cheese out some early kills. And also, when you're a fast running champion, you can also get longer queues. It's going to get you in better spots for ease quicker. That I really love movement speed on Zoe. It might not be optimal at all points, but it can really make the difference in these early game metas where skirmishes can sometimes decide entire games. So if you have maybe not the strongest jungler, and they have a jungler that's looking to duel a lot, and you know your jungler is probably going to try and fight him in the river over scuttlers, this can really help you in the early game do a lot of damage. And also you get a little bit more movement speed as well with the Lich Bane. That doesn't give movement speed anymore. And yeah, I think movement speed can be really good. I think it might be a little underutilized right now on Zoe, just because of it has so many different angles of utility on her. If there's a tip that you think I forgot or I should have added to this guide, please let me know. I know that I obviously can't cover it all with just this 5-tip type of format that I'm doing. But yeah, if you guys like the video, please remember to like and subscribe. And as always, guys, take it easy.